Welcome back once again to the Steely Dan 64 project. In this series of videos, I'm sharing my personal ranking of the 64 songs released by Steely Dan during their classic period, from 1972 to 1980. My foundational premise is this: not one of these 64 songs sucks, but I do enjoy some more than others. Today, let's consider the songs I ranked from numbers 32 through 25. Glad you made it in. I'm Swan Shadow, not his real name, and I'm always happy to have you on board. In today's video, we're going to cover the 8 songs that come in at numbers 32 through 25 in my personal ranking of Steely Dan's 64 classic period songs. If you're curious as to which songs landed further down the list, there are links to the previous videos in this series in the description below. Just a reminder, this ranking is strictly a representation of one person's opinions about these songs, coming from someone who's been an avid Steely Dan fan since the 1970s. Your evaluation of and opinions about these songs can, will, and indeed should be different from mine. That, of course, is what the comments section is for. We're now halfway through the countdown. And just as it's true that not one of the 32 Steely Dan tracks we've considered thus far has been terrible, I mean, hey, even my least favorite Steely Dan tune is a darn good tune. Every song in the upper half of the countdown is pretty amazing. This is the point in the list where I really started to freak out over placement. Seriously, I could have taken the names of the 8 songs we're about to discuss, tossed them into a hat, and drawn the order randomly. Most likely I could have been fine with however that lottery came out. But since I didn't have a hat handy, on we go. Song number 32 is Barrytown, the 4th track on Steely Dan's 1974 album Pretzel Logic. When I think of the Steely Dan discography, I don't immediately think simple, catchy pop songs. And yet, here is one. And then again, even at their simplest and catchiest, Donald Fagen and Walter Becker always have something darker going on underneath. In real life, Barrytown is a neighborhood in Dutchess County, New York, practically next door to Bard College, where Becker and Fagen matriculated. As documented in the song My Old School, which we'll cover in a later video, Becker and Fagen didn't have the fondest memories of the townsfolk in the little burg where they attended classes. Barrytown is another poke at the stuffy swells who inhabited the area. You'll hear people say that Barrytown refers to the Unification Church, or the Moonies, as followers of the late Sun Myung Moon are commonly known, because the church's seminary campus is located there. However, the seminary opened in September 1975, well over a year and a half after Pretzel Logic was released. Becker and Fagen were brilliant songwriters, but I don't believe they were clairvoyant. Michael McDonald always rates a mention when his distinctive backing vocals pop in on a Steely Dan song. No McDonald here, he doesn't show up until the following album, Katy Lied. But Barrytown does feature another storied singer on high harmonies. That's future Eagle Timothy B. Schmidt you can hear crooning along on the bridge. Song number 31 is Parker's Band, track number 6 on the 1974 album Pretzel Logic. Although this song is intended as a tribute to legendary saxophone player Charlie Bird Parker, it's the drumming that makes this one for me. Steely Dan didn't employ dueling drummers very often, but the interplay here between session veteran Jim Gordon and then 19-year-old Jeff Porcaro, later of Toto, is nothing short of stellar. Even though you have 2 sensational percussionists going at it, the rhythm is propulsive without being overbearing, and fascinating without being flashy. Gordon is the primary drummer on Pretzel Logic. He plays on all but one of the album's 11 tracks. This despite the fact that Jim Hodder, who's relegated to backing vocals on this particular track, was still credited as the band's official drummer. Jeff Porcaro would step up as the main man behind the kit for the follow-up album, Katie Lied. Ironically, this song doesn't sound an awful lot like something Mr. Parker's band would have recorded, but I'll bet the Birdman would have enjoyed the shout-out nonetheless. Song number 30 is Kings, the third track on Steely Dan's 1972 debut album, Can't Buy a Thrill. We've seen the last of good King Richard. Ring out the past, his name lives on. Roll out the bones and raise up your pitcher. Raise up your glass to good King John. Your guess as to why Donald Fagen decided to sing a punchy pop tune about long-dead English royalty is as good as mine. But give me some fine backing vocals by the Greek chorus of Vanetta Fields, Clyde King, and Shirley Matthews, with a smattering of tasty guitar by Elliot Randall, and I don't really care what the motivation was. I love that sinuous and sinister piano figure that Fagen plays to open the proceedings. I've said it before, and I'm sure I'll say it again before we finish this exercise. Fagen's piano playing is a vastly underappreciated element in the Steely Dan sound. Song number 29 is Don't Take Me Alive, the third track on the 1976 album The Royal Scam. As tasty and understated as Elliot Randall's playing is on Kings, Larry Carlton's is snarling and ferocious to the same degree on Don't Take Me Alive. Carlton's stinging solo that opens the track comes as close to metal as anything on a Steely Dan record ever got. Meanwhile, Becker and Fagen contribute yet another lyrical narrative about a dangerous man living on the dark side of society. When the boys began their professional careers as touring members of Jay and the Americans, lead singer Jay Black used to refer to them as Manson and Starkweather. You hear songs like Don't Take Me Alive, and you start to think that Jay Black might have been onto something. Song number 28 is Gaucho, the title track from the 1980 album of the same name. Gaucho, the song, not the album, is noteworthy for three random facts. Fact number 1, Jeff Porcaro reportedly played more than 45, that's 45 with a 4 and a 5, separate takes of the drum track for this song. Fagen, Becker, producer Gary Katz, and engineer Roger Nichols then cobbled together bits and pieces of that gargantuan library of drum beats into what appears on the record. Fact number 2, jazz piano legend Keith Jarrett sued Becker and Fagen for plagiarizing his 1974 release, Long As You Know You're Living Yours, in the writing of this song. The legal settlement earned Jarrett a co-writing credit and $1 million paycheck, which at the time was huge. Fact number 3, the mythical Custer Dome, famously mentioned in the lyric here, was described by Becker as, quote, one of the largest buildings in the world, an extravagant structure with a rotating restaurant on top. And according to Fagen, it exists only in our collective imagination. In the Steely Dan lexicon, it serves as an archetype of a building that houses great corporations. Alrighty then. And one observation, Tom Scott's tenor sax riffing is pretty archetypical all by itself. Song number 27 is Showbiz Kids, the fifth track from the 1973 album Countdown to Ecstasy. Back in my days as a college radio disc jockey, I worked at a station where the cover of Countdown to Ecstasy bore a big Sharpie inscribed sticker that read, "Do not play Showbiz Kids." The conservative administration of our university was certain that airing a song in which Donald Fagen drops an F-bomb would lead to the moral disintegration of our community. Strangely, that community was Malibu, which in the early 80s, and well, still today for that matter, was pretty much ground zero for moral disintegration without any aid from college radio. Now the truth can be told. I might have snuck this bad boy onto the turntable at least twice during my 2-year broadcasting stint. Of course, my expert timing and deft touch on the potentiometer prevented the offending word from beaming out over the Southern California airwaves. And, funny thing, society did not collapse. I left the cut off my official playlist, though, just in case. By the way, that's Rick Derringer kicking in with the nasty slide guitar. You know he don't give a, well, you know what, about anybody else. But he probably did get a Steely Dan t-shirt for his participation. Song number 26 is Reelin' in the Years, the 6th track on Steely Dan's 1972 debut album, Can't Buy a Thrill. On each of their first 3 albums, the boys from Bard tossed in at least one number that skewered their collegiate experiences and the people who made them miserable. This is the first of those excoriations. My Old School and Barrytown would come with the next 2 albums, and it's the only one to be a major chart hit. Musically, it's that now iconic Elliott Randall guitar solo that buys the thrills for me. In a 2009 interview with Rolling Stone, Fagen referred to this song as, quote, dumb but effective, while Becker opined that it was no fun. Seems like harsh descriptions for a song that helped break them big and earn them a ton of royalty checks over the decades. But that's Donald and Walter for you. Song number 25 is Josie, the 7th and concluding track on the 1977 album Asia. To this day, I have no idea what a battle apple is, but I imagine it's something that might come in handy in a game of Street Fighter. What I do know is that Chuck Rainey and Jim Keltner bring some cool, funky bass and stylish, rock-steady drumming to the skirmish, ensuring that we all come out winners. Yeah, I desperately wanted to rate this song higher because it's cool and slinky and just a ton of fun. But as you'll see in our upcoming videos, everything from here on up is absolutely killer. What could I move down to move Josie up? I just don't know. Also, me being me, I always imagine the title character of this tune wearing a leopard print bodysuit with a long tail and kitten ears for a hat. We're hitting the rarefied air now. In our next episode, we'll begin at song number 24 and move on up to number 17. When that video is posted, you'll find a link in the description below. Of course, you can make your life easy by subscribing to the channel and punching the notification bell. That way, YouTube will let you know when we've got more steaming hot content for you. Also, if you'd be so kind, please tap that thumbs up to like this video. That makes the algorithm happy and helps us spread the news. Until next time, be well, stay steely, and hey, is there gas in the car? Yes, there's gas in the car.